magic through artifacts given to their kings by a deity. What about the war between humans and the elves? Where did the lances go? Virian pinch on Arthur. I was just about to get to the war, but you already know about the war, so I won't go over it. But basically the peace lasted only a few generations until the three races slowly forgot about the alliance their ancestors all shared and their greed took over. For the lances, it is not that they went anywhere. They have existed throughout the generations, nurtured very closely to the royal families, and have been secretly raised to each wield an artifact. It is only because of the discovery of the other continent that we decided to unify and make the lances known publicly. Arthur said, I can see why this was all kept a secret. Even if the lances are soulbound to their kings, if word got out that there were artifacts capable of producing white core mages, then Decathan's fall might very well happen from within. Suddenly, Virian said, Arthur, I am telling you all of this because you play a part in all of this. Your bond is not merely a mana beast. Your bond, she is a deity. Arthur pointed at Sylvie and asked, a god. Virian said, deities are not really what religious books say about gods. Simply put, they are beings that are able to ascend from what we consider their mortal bodies and fully harmonize with mana. There's a reason why even spotting a dragon is considered a blessing in our culture, and it is why I've been keeping Sylvie's true form a secret all this time. Virian continued, whether you believe me or not, I don't think it is mere coincidence that the two of you have become bonds. The world is changing. I don't know what role you two will play in it, but whatever the case, you need to be ready. And Arthur returned to the shabby old place, but the store was gone, leaving a rainbow pearl and a note on the ground. The note read, if you want to know the whole story, come to the West Teleportation Gate at noon tomorrow. It is necessary, King Grey. It is of utmost importance to bring stability to our country, to show the people of our country, your country, that you are a king that will fight for us. You must kill her, so that the world will know not to trifle with your country. Arthur wondered why that memory had to come up now. Soon, when he reached the teleportation gate, the guard told him, this is the West Teleportation Gate to the Kingdom of Elenoir. We need verification to allow anyone through. After showing them the pocket watch, Arthur entered, but both Sylvie and Arthur felt weird during the transportation. Arthur wondered, this is the first time I've ever felt Sylvie express fear before. Suddenly, a very high level of pressure appeared. A purple-eyed figure stared at them and said, at last, we finally have a bit of privacy to peacefully converse. Arthur exclaimed, you are the cat from the elixir store that disappeared. The cat transformed into humanoid form and introduced himself by my friends and brethren. I go by Winsome. Lesser such as yourself, we are what you have deemed deities. Back to Cynthia's memories, during the council meeting, Glodera forced her to bring the student who spotted Lance Alia dead. Priscilla said, as Cynthia has already interrogated them and visited the scene, there is no use in bringing a student here. Aldwin said, dispatch our best tracking mages to see if we can find any evidence that has been left behind, and they requested Cynthia to join them. But Cynthia rejected, telling them she had other urgent business affairs to attend to. Xavier questioned Cynthia, what has got you so distracted on a mission like this? Cynthia told him, I wonder if it was the right thing to do, not telling the council that Arthur Lewin was the student who found Alia. Xavier said, definitely, that boy is a mystery as it is. It will be no good for the council to be suspicious of him. Cynthia continued, I consider us lucky he did not see anything while he was down there. Suddenly, a few mages attacked Cynthia. She cast a barrier to push them away, and she informed Xavier to finish them off. Xavier transformed into his wyvern fighting form and ate them. One of the mages said, I have heard much about you. Looks like your life here has treated you well. Cynthia told him, your core won't last much longer. I can't make this quick if you tell me what they are planning. Mage laughed. You think I will tell a traitor anything? You have made a big mistake. They are slowly regaining their former strength. You assumed this continent had decades left, but we have spies in every corner of this continent, from the forest to the coast. The people of Decathan have mere years left before the war begins. With a spell from Cynthia, the mage died. She thanked Xavier for cleaning up the mess. Xavier questioned Cynthia, how is the wound on your back? Cynthia replied, I'm fine, but I can't help but get the sense that this was too easy. We should head for the coast next. Let's just hope my suspicions are not correct. Season 4 ended. Winsome said I felt this form would be more appropriate for our conversation. Arthur wondered a being even stronger than a white core mage deity. Get a hold of yourself, now is not the time to get dumbstruck. Arthur said before we continue, I'd like to confirm a few things. The guard said this gate was heading to Elenoir. Is there something wrong with Tasha or Virian? Does this have to do with that orb you gave me? Winsome replied, I just had to ensure you would come through the gate. Anisha, Arthur, Tasha, and Virion are fine. The elf princess is even more than fine now, since that elixir you so generously gave her kept her core from exploding. Just make sure you keep the second one, that one is for you. Arthur shocked, excuse me, exploding. Winsome never replied that. Now let's talk about why I brought you here. Now it is no longer a secret that Dicathan is not only continent on this planet. Dicathan and Alacria have always been governed by us. Those who reside in the land of Ephatus, though you lesser races have regarded us as deities historically, we call ourselves Asuras, which are the deities passed down the artifacts to them. Winsome continue, now you only know of the artifacts because the old elf king has shared it with you, but the truth of the Asuras is something no one on your land knows about. Asuras have always been governed by a noblesse oblige of sorts. We were never to interfere with your people or your land directly unless the peace or balance was threatened. But this imperative rule has been broken. Ephatus was once divided into 3 factions made of multiple clans of different races. The ruling clan of each faction had their own priorities, but we all stood by to never raise a hand against the lesser races. However, after Agrona became the new leader of the Vritra clan, he broke that doctrine in an attempt to advance his people. I am aware you have crossed paths with some of their members. Vritra clan are an anomaly even amongst Asuras. Think of them as scientists. They were constantly studying and furthering insights into the working of mana. When Agrona came into power, the Vritra's strength grew exponentially. Belter learned that Agrona and members of his clan have been experimenting with the lesser bodies in Alacria to find different ways to enhance their own abilities. Arthur said, but I don't understand what this had to do with me. Winsome continued, you are right, it should not have anything to do with you. But you must now be aware because of your ties to us. After Winsome's spell, Sylvie turned to dragon form. We have been searching for Lady Sylvia for years, and when we finally found traces of her mana, it led us to a little boy who held a deity in his arms. Arthur, you are currently bonded with the child of my master's only daughter, and the granddaughter of the most powerful being in all of the 3 continents of this world. Arthur said so, dragons are deities, and Grandma Sylvia and Sylvie are amongst some of the most powerful. Winsome replied, when you consider their bloodline and potential, yes. Most deities have 3 forms, but it seemed like Lady Sylvie has been in that miniature beast form to preserve her energy, although most Asuras tend to stay in their humanoid form to save mana. If she is not transformed into her humanoid form by now, then it is likely because she is not able to. Lady Sylvie's mana core is still underdeveloped, and considering how things are progressing, they have found signs that Agrona's spies are already on this continent. There is a war coming. And although the upper echelons of Ephatus will never admit it or of pride, your connection with Lady Sylvia can play a crucial role in this. As long as you agree to be our ally, Arthur Lewin, there will be no need to separate you from Lady Sylvie. Arthur replied, this war will involve my continent and thus my family and friends. I will be an ally to you either way. What you asking is whether or not I am willing to be pawn under your control. Winsome said, you are wise for your age and your mana core is rather well developed as well, but once you and Lady Sylvia arrive in Ephatus, we will be able to train you with. Arthur stopped his word, questioning, we have to go to Ephatus. Winsome told him, yes, Lady Sylvia's power, one that even Asuras would kill for, lies inside you barely tapped. Ephatus is the only place you will be able to learn how to harness your potential so that both you and Lady Sylvie can grow stronger, and only then will Dicathan stand a chance against the mages of Alacria. Back to DC officers' meeting, Kathleen wondered it has only been less than 2 days since Claire and Curtis came back from their field trip, but they can't even rest with all the hate crimes escalating on campus. Claire said they beat and tied Denton to a statue right outside our building, just because he's a plebeian and an elf. We have to stop this radical group now before they do anything more serious. From conversation, they unable to find any proof so that Professor can't do anything as well. Kathleen stand up and yell Arthur being a professor was proof of his abilities despite being from a humble background. There should be no reason for them to be using this as an excuse to. They are not sure what they can do for this moment. Elijah come in and about telling them about art. Suddenly an explosion happened from outside while they are heading to explosion point. Kathleen thought equality had always been important to my mother. I remember being young and refusing to take lessons with other students who were not princesses like me, not knowing better. Mother always remind her you are a princess and also a person. It does not matter if someone is a king or a queen, a servant or a powerful mage or even an elf or a dwarf. Everyone is different and special in their own way, but a person is a person. Never hate someone for something they can't and should not change. When they came out, they noticed the building was on fire, but it quickly settled down by Professor with a water spell. Kathleen yelled at Charles and pointed her magic wand at him. Theodore grabbed him and said, "Cut the crap, Charles. We need to ask you a couple of questions." Charles acted innocent, and a professor told them, "This is not the time to be harassing students." Theodore was mad and said, "Innocent? You have been seen multiple times with the radical group, and now you and your little friends are at the scene of the crime, and you want me to believe you?" The professor said, "Are the DC officers just going around making baseless accusations now?" Glory stepped in to stop both of them, telling Theodore, "We can't afford to be rash right now." Curtis told them, "We still need to make sure there was no one left behind in the building." Elijah was still working hard on his earth magic spell. He wondered why it was easy to communicate with the earth, but his control was weak. Even after reaching the light orange stage, he still had a long way to go. Thought maybe I should have told Arthur about it back then so he could have helped me train. As a solid yellow quadra-elemental mage with dragon's will, if Arthur were here today, he probably could have stopped the fire by himself. Elijah told the DC officers, assuring them that Arthur is safe. Elijah wondered if they would still have been worried if they knew of Arthur's true abilities, but he realized they would have been worried either way. He figured that with Arthur's skills and power, he would be popular, but even without all that, he has people like the DC members and Princess Tesha who genuinely care for him. He questioned himself, would it have been the same for me if I had not grown up with dwarves? We are both freaks of nature, but the only difference is that it works in Arthur's favor. Suddenly, Elijah felt a headache and all those emotions flooding in again. He slapped his face and told himself, "No, Arthur has always been there for me, but he is facing bigger battles. If I want to stand next to him, I need to get stronger." After Arthur came out, he headed to find Virian and Tasha. One of the guys noticed a human not even needing to queue and walked toward them to argue. Even though the elf girl explained that Arthur was a guest of a Lenoir, the guy was not satisfied until he released his spell and lifted Arthur, telling him, "I have enough control to not burn you alive, kid." Arthur instantly cast a blue flame and warned him, "You are going to have to do at least this much to burn me." After that, Arthur continued his way to Tasha and recalled the memory. He questioned Winsome, "If you have been trying so hard to find Sylvie, then how come it took so long for you to find us? Doesn't my beast will carry Sylvie's Mana's signature?" Winsome replied, "It is because your bond's insignia has one of Lady Sylvia's feathers, and you also hid the presence of her signature. But now that we have found you, it is time for you to prepare yourself to come to Ephatus." Soon Arthur arrived, and an explosion happened at the same time. Virian jumped out from there, telling him Tesha's body is already fully integrated with the Elderwood Guardian's beast well. Arthur was curious and asked what. How could she already be fully integrated with an S-class beast? Then immediately thought it might be related to the colorful pearl from Winsome. Virian continued, "Even though she is awake and aware, Tesha cannot control the vines. They just keep multiplying with each one I cut down." Virian requested Arthur's assistance to settle down, and Arthur thought that using any fire spells in this environment would be too risky, so he immediately activated Beast Will and cast Thunderclap Impulse with a blink, appearing right in front of Tasha. Arthur told Tesha, "Try to keep the vines from closing." Then he hugged her and cast an ice spell to clear all the vines at once. Tesha said, "I hate how I always need your help. Anyway, what you gave me was the opportunity to grow. It's time for me to learn how to use it and get strong enough to fight by your side." Winsome watched them and said, "It is too early to tell him everything, but one day that boy will have to learn everything about Lady Sylvie, especially the truth behind her lineage." While Tesha fell asleep at carriage, Virian told Arthur it was my fault to encourage her to release first phase of Beast Will. We both thought she could control it since her body was fully integrated. At the very least, although I would be able to keep her in control. Arthur pondered since her integration process was accelerated, she skipped the training phase and never got a chance to test its control before now. I can feel that her beast will is different from mine. Even though it is fully integrated, it still feels like it is fighting back against her mana. Arthur told Virian Tess needs to be more careful. It could be dangerous for her and everyone around her if things escalate like this again. Virian mad and replied, "Obviously, I see that now. I was just a grandfather that got a little excited and proud over his granddaughter's progress. Is that such a crime?" Virian calmly said it might be best to get a seal to suppress her mana until she gains better control. But then again, she would be defenseless if something were to happen, and she can't remove it in time. Maybe we can start with a protective artifact for her. Arthur said, "Yup, it is a good move, and if it makes you feel better, and I will stay by your precious granddaughter's side as much as I can." Suddenly, Virian turned to a serious face, questioned Arthur, "What do you really make of my granddaughter? I'm asking if you have ever thought about marrying her one day." I mean, sure, she is a bit rough around the edges, and her parents and I may have spoiled her a bit, but she's a good girl. I guess what I really want to know is, Arthur, do you like my granddaughter? Arthur said I do, but I also can't say for certain that I know what like or love actually mean. I hope I can find the answer with more time, but until then I'd like to improve myself before even thinking of asking for your granddaughter's hand in marriage. Virian nodded and replied, good answer, you have your head in the right place. Sylvie, said he, I knew Papa liked Mama. Virian said, don't worry, Tasha will sleep through anything. But the truth is, Tasha thought, oh my God, Arthur just admitted that he likes me. I can't believe Grandpa got him to admit it. Way to go, Grandpa. I am breathing too fast. Keep your eyes shut, Tess, and slow down your breathing. Can Arthur hear how fast I am breathing? Arthur thought the care I have for Tasha is definitely different from how I feel about anyone else. But the best thing I can do right now is protect her. A protective artifact would be good for her. For Ellie and Mother have pendants, but it is just a one-time charm. Ellie is not even fully awakened yet, and if what Winsome said about a work coming is true, then I should get Ellie a bond, one that's strong and large enough to protect my sister if it ever came down to it. Yes, I shall definitely get my younger sister a pet that could potentially maul anyone within 3 feet of her. Soon they are arrived to meet up with King Alduin and Queen Muriel from their conversation. They have been long time never visit Rhenia. Rhenia had told Virian a few times she has been interested in Arthur's future. Rhenia has chosen to isolate herself near the edge of the kingdom. She would not tell Virian why. But Virian almost died from her traps and defenses the last time he visited unannounced. If Rhenia has precautions up, it means there are people she needs to be cautious of. During the way they walked to Rhenia location, Alduin thanks Arthur, telling him it was really because of you that council was able to be formed. Alduin said, if I am to be completely honest, I did not have the best impression of humans after the war. I lost my mother because of them. I never found it in me to forgive them, and to think I almost lost my daughter years later after slave traders trespassed into our forest and came a young human child who brought my daughter safely back home. He had the courage to not only save her from those slave traders, but also chastise the Elven King. Being lectured by a human child was just the wake-up call I needed. Anyway, I just want you to know that I am not opposed to bringing you into our family. Muriel then said he may act cool like this, but it is not once or twice that my husband has been yearning to see you again. Alduin, embarrassed, said, Muriel. Muriel told him, if you wanted privacy, you should have conjured a wind barrier. To me, it seems like you wanted all of us to hear. Soon Virian told everyone to quiet down. Suddenly something emerged from the bushes. While everyone was on high alert and Arthur was about to strike, Virian quickly lifted him up. Rhenia was shocked and yelled at them, what are you doing waving around your sword at an old woman? You are the ones who are late. Tesha hugged on Rhenia, said, it is good to see you again, Grandma Rhenia. Soon Rhenia explained that they had taken a little too long, so she decided to make sure they did not get lost. As Rhenia activated her spell, they finally arrived at Rhenia's house. Rhenia reminded them not to conjure any light. They would make their way in the dark. While Arthur wondered what sort of deviant magic allowed for a space to be bigger inside than it was outside, he noticed everyone had fallen unconscious. Arthur replied, can I assume that what you are about to tell me is something only I can know? Rhenia said yes, but before that I feel as though I need to tell you about my powers as a diviner. Deviants outside of those who can harness the higher forms of the 4 basic elements have to find their own source of power to fuel their magic. This is different from regular mages who draw power from the mana particles in the atmosphere. Rhenia explained. Alice is an emitter and has healing capabilities that elemental recovery spells can't compare to. I have met quite a few deviants who all had unique properties to their magic. They all have one thing in common, which is their own pool of mana. They draw upon it to power their magic, which is different from an elemental deviant such as yourself. For diviners, our powers are also developed differently. Our powers can awaken at any point in our lives and mostly come in erratic bursts. Blurred images of the future flash through our minds quite often. Most of the time, they are a little too vague and minute to make anything out of. These flashes of the future don't use any of our mana at all. In response to Arthur's question about a spell Rhenia made during his young age involving her powers as a diviner to project an image, Rhenia continued, diviners shorten their own lifespans each time they choose to consciously look into the future. That is the true power of a diviner. Everything else is just a collection of useful little spells that can't be considered anything more than hat tricks. Rhenia then told Arthur about Virian's wife, Lania, who was also a diviner much more powerful than herself. She explained how Lania's unconscious divinations and prophecies were longer, more detailed, and more frequent than hers. Lania was admired by every female elf of their generation and was the pride of their kingdom. However, fate was cruel to Lania and Virian. The war between elves and humans was nearing its end, and there was talk of a treaty in the air. Tensions were still strong, and they suspected that the humans still wanted to assert their power. Their suspicions turned out to be true when the then King of Sapping carried out one final act against the future heir to the elven throne, targeting Virion for an assassination. Lania was tormented by visions of Virion's death, but her prophecies provided little information on how he would die. Even as a diviner, if she tried to change something in these prophecies, the outcome would only lead to a different cause of death. Virion knew the toll it was taking on his wife and begged her to stop, but she continued behind his back out of desperation. Rhaenyra continued, "When I look into the future just once, I can feel the days, weeks, sometimes months drain out of my body." Lana did it almost every day for the one she loved. Still, she endured. In the end, she was able to keep Virion alive long enough for the current king, Galater, to stage a revolt and take down his father to end the war. She had succeeded but burned up so much of her lifespan in the process. She died a few weeks later in his arms. Hated Virion for a long time because of this. I hated my sister for leaving me behind in this vast world. Rhaenyra confessed. Arthur thought, Gramps is always so cheerful and loves joking around. I never would have thought that he had such a tragic past. Rhaenyra said, I did not tell you this because I wanted your sympathy, because I have used the same powers as the one that eventually killed my sister to look into your future, Arthur. Truth be told, I was getting glimpses of your future before I even met you or your bond for the first time. Arthur questioned, before we even met, is that common? Rhaenyra replied, to have so many visions of a specific person naturally never happened before. Arthur, Dickathan is entering a new era. Things are changing, and you always seem to be at its epicenter. Telling you too much right now can affect the outcomes you want, but telling you too little defeats the point of me searching for a better outcome. Worried, Arthur said, you are sacrificing your lifespan for this, Elder Rhaenyra. There has to be something I can do, right? And does Virion know? Rhaenyra stopped Arthur, telling him, why should he? I have lived long enough. I might as well use it to help the future. But it seems like by looking into your future, I might have made some rather troublesome enemies. Hence, the remote hideout. But it was my choice. I just wish that I came bearing better news. Listen, you will face many hardships. Whatever future you decide, that will remain constant. There will be enemies and obstructions in your path. But through all of that, what I can tell you is that you need an anchor and end goal. What do you want to accomplish in your life? That will be what determines your path. I will leave you with these two things. 1, people do bad things for good reasons, so don't take things at surface level. And 2, often the most dangerous enemy is not the one on the throne leading the forces, but the abandoned soldier who has nothing to lose. I am sorry I can't tell you more. Arthur replied, what if I don't make the right choices? Rhaenyra patted Arthur and told him, sometimes the right choice is not always the best choice. We have been talking all night. You should get some rest before you and Tesha return tomorrow. Meanwhile, I'm to Luca's side. He said, is this the same crap that your little leader gave to that pig Marquis? Charles replied, Marquis took it willingly. His body just could not handle it. Lucas noticed that Charles and the other nobles were not even chosen to use it. He made fun of them and wondered if their cores were weaker than his. He believed that the drug would probably kill them the moment it entered their system. Charles became angry and said, do you think we want to sit here babysitting you? There is so much more we need to do before tomorrow. Our informant warned us that the DC officers are getting bolder. We need to act now. Lucas cast fire, warning Charles, how long are you going to keep talking big when you are nothing more than a little messenger boy? Then he drank the green drug. After a while, Charles and the other nobles laughed at Lucas, thinking that he couldn't even handle it. But in the next second, fire erupted from Lucas, instantly pushing Charles a long distance away. Lucas recalled his memories with his brother. Aaron had said, I heard you were starting fights. Do you think you are good enough to waste time fooling around? Are you going to continue relying on our parents, wasting thousands of gold and trying to forcibly make yourself stronger? Or are you finally going to try on your own? Lucas seemed crazy and simply cast a fire blast, killing the red-haired noble. He then instantly grabbed another noble and told her, I just wanted to make sure you knew that the drug worked better on me than the pig. Lucas walked towards Charles, yelling at him, try calling me a mutt again. After everyone woke up, Rhaenyra explained that she didn't realize the calming herbs she had put in the tea would be so effective. She also revealed that she had brought an artifact to help Tasha keep her beast under control. After finishing their meal, Rhaenyra led them to teleportation gates that would take them to Xyrus. Arthur, feeling curious, asked, I thought teleportation gates have existed since ancient times and are tightly regulated by the kingdoms. Are you allowed to have a personal one like this? Rhaenyra smiled and replied, Virian reminded Tasha, make sure to stop by Goodski's office before school starts. I haven't heard from her in a while and want to make sure that old coot is still breathing. And they go in teleportation gate. Soon as Arthur arrived home, Jasmine opened the door. Arthur noticed that the twin horns were present today. Angela hugged Arthur directly, as she always did. Tasha wondered what was going on, and Angela quickly hugged her, saying, "Aren't you the cutest little elf?" Reynolds told them to come inside, and as everyone entered, Tasha told Arthur, "I only planned on stopping by to say hello before heading back to school. There's a lot of student council work that I missed, and I also have to see Director Goodski." Arthur worried and asked, "Is something wrong?" Tasha explained, "No, I just wanted to get her help adjust into this since it seems like I'll have it on for a while. As the president, I shouldn't be here having fun when even Lilia is still at school." Arthur thought, "I told Gramps I had to stay with Tasha since most of her magic is suppressed right now." But Tasha reassured him, saying, "It's just one night. I'll be fine." Arthur reminded her, "Don't work too hard and get some rest. Her mana core is still a little unstable." Alice came outside and handed Tasha a scarf, saying, "I wish you could stay, but if you must go, at least keep yourself warm." Soon, most of them got drunk. Jasmine asked, "Did I mention how worried I was while I was away?" Helen pushed her away and said, "Yes. Jasmine, you've mentioned it 23 times now." Helen invited Arthur to get some fresh air outside. During their conversation, Helen told Arthur, "You are made for bigger things. Just stay anchored and know what you want, know what you're fighting for." Helen was a little worried about the discovery of the new continent. She then instructed Arthur, "Sneak back up to your room and get some rest. I'll handle my teammates." Meanwhile, at another site, the masked guy said, "Everything is in place. Let the attack commence." Curtis suspected that the insane cultists were going to launch a full-scale attack soon. He said, "We need to keep ourselves warmed up and prepared for battle." I replied, "Now we just wait for Doradria to come so I can activate it. I've been out scouting the whole day, so I think any more training will be more harmful than good." Doradria chimed in, saying, "I've brought some mana resistance bands for us to train with." Curtis, curious, asked, "Are you trying to make us waste all of our mana training with these things when an actual battle might occur soon?" Claire interjected, "You know Doradria means well. Besides, these would actually be useful to train with after all of this is over." Theodore told Kai, "We're all here. Turn on the barrier." As Kai turned it on, Claire wondered, "That's weird. Why is the barrier red?" Curtis and Fairith told him to shut it down. Something was wrong. Claire wondered, maybe Kai can't hear from outside. Theodore attempted to break it but failed. Kathleen told him to stop wasting mana, saying, "There's an emergency kill switch somewhere around here." But when Claire found it, she discovered that it was already broken. Suddenly, a gang of mages attacked from one side of the barrier. Claire ordered the DC officers, "Get information. This is not a drill." Claire questioned why they were taking advantage and ordered everyone to move forward and help Kai, who was in danger outside. Suddenly, Lucas laughed at them, saying, "You still don't get it. Kai's the one who trapped all of you in here. There's no reason for me to lie when I can squash you bugs so easily." With a blink, Lucas cast a fire spirit, and everyone was blown away. Claire decided to attack Lucas from behind, but was stopped by the fire spirit. Luckily, Doradria assisted Claire in dodging. Claire thought, "We need an opening." Doradria's mana resistance bands must have interfered with the formation of the barrier. Claire told Doradria, "We need to get everyone back here to escape." Doradria replied, "The problem is Lucas. He is stronger than even the professors right now." Theodore cast a powerful force at Lucas, but Lucas countered by grabbing his neck. At the same time, Lucas received a message that the target had almost arrived, and he quickly left. I yelled at Lucas, "You were supposed to help us capture them." But Lucas replied, "Now I have a more important mission to attend to." Claire said to Theo and Kath, "Use a defensive spell. We have to get out of here." Kath and Fairith cast an ice barrier in front of them, and after Claire successfully opened a way to escape, Doradria defended in front to buy them time to retreat. Fairith decided to stay behind as well. When the other DC officers escaped outside, they noticed a bunch of mana beasts attacking the students. At Tasha's location, she wondered, "I didn't want to worry Arthur, but my body feels really out of sync right now. My mana core is completely exhausted. Hopefully, Director Goodski can help me get used to this." Suddenly, Tasha noticed the barrier in front and told the carriage driver, "Let's go back." At the same time, a fire blast arrived. Lucas said, "You're finally here, and alone? This is going to be easier than I thought." Tasha thought maybe I can still save him. I need to put out that fire somehow. But Lucas told her it is rude to ignore someone when they are talking. "Why don't you worry about yourself rather than some lowly common?" Tasha cast wind spell told him to shut up. Tesha thought Rinya's bracelet is keeping my beast will in check, but it is also limiting my use of magic. Lucas lifted her up, telling her that is right, just stay nice and pretty like this. Who knows, maybe you will even end up liking me more than that pathetic boyfriend of yours. Tesha denied. Is that what this all is? The fact that you are not killing outright means that I am not the target. Using the same drug that killed Mark while tracking me down, this is all for Arthur is not. Lucas threw her down, told her, shut your mouth. You don't quow anything. Tesha retorted, I do know that your inferiority complex has reached a new level. Lucas slapped her and warned, just because I won't kill you doesn't mean I need you in one piece. Suddenly, Tesha grabbed his hand and said, because I don't intend to leave in one piece either. Tesha forcefully cast vines that pulled Lucas away, and she wondered, I can't let him use me to lure in Arthur. However, Lucas became angry and cast another fire spell, pushing her away, and warned her, I can't let whatever magic you were using kill you, so keep that on or I will burn it into your skin. Lucas pulled on Tesha's hair and headed inside. Meanwhile, Elijah killed a few mana beasts and overheard a mage saying, human students, raise both hands and swear your allegiance to our cause, and the mana beasts will not attack you. Elves and dwarves, do not struggle as we destroy your mana cores, and you will be free to leave. Elijah wondered, how did the staff and director Goodski allow things to get this bad? Even the professors are cultists. Elijah cast an earth spike to attack a professor, but was blocked by the water barrier. Suddenly, Grotter appeared with Curtis, and the professor sensed the danger of the situation and ran away instantly. Curtis told the students, get to the training facility. There are some good professors there to protect you. Curtis informed Elijah about everything that had happened, mentioning that Doradria and Fairith were holding them back while they escaped. Thankfully, Arthur and Tess were not back at school yet. Suddenly, the masked guy announced, students and faculty members of Zyra's Academy, my pets will no longer bite, so please kindly make your way to the clock tower. It is time to begin the final ceremony, and I promise this is something you won't want to miss. Outside of Zyra's Academy, parents were worried and unable to contact their children. The Mages Guild and Artificers Guild had not encountered a barrier like this before. They couldn't break it with the artifacts they had on hand, and the Lances were preoccupied with incidents happening across the continent. Curtis told Elijah that he was going to find the rest of the DC members when suddenly a masked man spoke, thank you all for coming. It seems like despite the deaths you have witnessed, you Denstacathians are having trouble grasping the gravity of your situation. It threw Doradria's broken head, angering Theodore, who kept punching the barrier. Theodore told them to stop hiding behind the barrier and fight, challenging the masked man to come out and face him. The masked man, Draniva, was furious at Theodore's words. He pulled Theodore in for a fight, but Theodore's powerful blows were difficult for even a professor to block. End up, Theodore broke his own leg. Draniva cast a fire spell on Theodore and told everyone Theodore is still alive, so don't worry. Draniva declared that it was time for the main event involving the elves, dwarves, and others, including Tesha and Fairith. Claire held onto Curtis while both of them, along with Kathleen, were shocked. Curtis angrily questioned whether they were supposed to wait and let Theodore and Fairith be killed. Kathleen slapped Curtis and said, brother, we need to think of a way to save them and stop that monster. We need a plan to protect everyone here, but we can't do any of this if you're like this or if you're dead. Elijah wondered why Tesha was at school when she was not supposed to be. Draniva introduced himself again, claiming to have come to save them all from a faraway land where the weak were treated cruelly. He considered everyone in Dicathan elite, but in his homeland they were considered trash. He stated that he would prepare those he deemed worthy for his lord and sovereign, who would become the ruler of the continent. Pointing at Lucas, Draniva commanded him to step forth and reveal himself. Elijah became furious and began yelling and scolding Lucas. Lucas even pulled Tesha over him, further fueling Elijah's uncontrollable emotions. Elijah covered himself with a black spell, thinking it hurts. I'm scared. This doesn't feel like me. Who am I? In an instant, the black spikes killed a few mana beasts, and other mages who tried to attack Elijah were stopped by Draniva. Elijah thought that it was fine as long as he could kill Lucas. He tried to gather enough power to cast the final black spike, injuring Lucas, but unable to kill him. Draniva restrained Elijah and stared at him, seemingly recognizing the origin of the black magic spell. Claire thought about the creed of the Bladeheart family, which emphasized humility, loyalty, resoluteness, and courage. She realized her ignorance and acknowledged that now was the perfect chance to fight back, even though her body wouldn't move. Professor Grenner told them to clear the way as the barrier had finally broken and they couldn't waste this opportunity. Claire questioned whether they thought they could defeat Draniva now and why they were marching to their deaths like that. Curtis asked Claire what they should do and if they should support the professors. After struggling, she finally raised up her courage and yelled for the injured and scared to stay behind while the rest fought for Xyrus. Draniva told Lucas that there would be a change of plans and instructed him to follow them through the gate promptly after disposing of the approaching fools. Lucas questioned why Draniva was bringing Elijah, and Draniva released his pressure and replied, "Does a mere tool question his master?" He then took Elijah and left a final word for Lucas, "Do not disappoint me." Professor Grenier tried to stop Draniva, but was blocked by Lucas's. Claire noticed Kai. She thought, "How dare he betrayed us," and dashed towards attack him. Immediately she being tied up by Kai's metal spring, and Kai control a sharp stone stab on Claire's body. And finally he was here. Two horns, like polished swords, protruded from each side of its sharp head. Crinoline scales gleamed so vividly black that its shadow looked gray in comparison. Its eyes glowed with such intelligence and fierceness that even a veteran adventurer would stand frozen. But as awe-inspiring as the dragon was, it was the boy below it that trembled my heart in fear. Claire thought every step he took displayed a subtle, yet unshakable confidence, and seeping of his body was a blatant rage, so fierce and violent that. But my only regret from every inch was not being able to see Lucas's expression of defeat in the end. Lucas thought, "The Dranive's elixir have transcended the realm of mortals, and these so-called elites have become nothing more than ants to me. So why do my innards feel like they are being gripped and run by an icy claw?" Lucas then said, "Nice pet, Arthur. You're just in time for the party. But do you think that overgrown lizard can help you?" Arthur didn't reply and walked directly to Tasha. Arthur noticed that she seemed to be drugged to keep her unconscious, but aside from a couple of bruises and scrapes, Tess was okay. Meanwhile, other mages were unable to move due to a dragon's presence. Lucas thought to himself, "He ignored me." Lucas then said, "She was crying for you, you know. Draniv doesn't want me to lay a hand on your little princess, but I don't think I'm going to listen to him. What better way to break you than to have you lie helplessly on the ground as you watch me cripple the girl you care so much about?" Sylvie angrily roared, but Lucas noticed that Arthur still ignored him. This made Lucas mad, and he said, "You dare keep your back turned to me? Why talk, peasant? I will break every bone in your body so you can only cry as I desecrate Tasha, right?" Before his words could end, Lucas wondered about the feeling he had. It felt like a mad demon twisting and clawing at his insides. He questioned why he was reacting this way, and why the presence of Arthur instilled more fear in him than the esteemed professors of the school or even his own brother. Arthur finally spoke, saying, "I thought of you as nothing more than a wasp I deemed unnecessary to kill. If that wasp chose to rear its stinger, even the holiest of saints would swat it down." As Arthur started to release his bloodlust, Lucas thought, "It's not supposed to be like this. My power should be much greater than his. Oh, how can a mere bug instill so much fear within me? How many legions of men and beasts has he killed to possess such a suffocating, oppressive bloodlust?" Lucas cast Hell's Rain, and multiple purple fire blasts attacked Arthur. Arthur told Sylvie it was fine and instructed her to protect Tasha. Arthur then released his second phase of Beast Wool and blocked the spell. Lucas was shocked to discover that Arthur had been hiding his ice magic all along, but he said, "It doesn't matter," and cast a trident attack toward Arthur. Arthur shaped a sword with all the elemental mana and pointed it at Lucas, casting a dark black lightning spell that struck his arm. Afterward, he walked over to Lucas, lifted his right arm, and burned it. Lucas cried out, "You can't do this." "I am Lucas Wykes," but Arthur ignored him and stepped on his legs, using downforce to crush them instantly. Arthur questioned Lucas about Draniv's involvement in everything. Lucas confirmed, saying, "That's right. And you know what else? He took that incompetent fool you call your best friend. You lose, Arthur Lewin." Now, Arthur stepped on Lucas's third leg and said, "There will be a change in this world. There is nothing I can do about that. However, I can at least take measures to ensure your filth won't spread to the next generation." Lucas yelled, "I'm sorry. I beg of you, please don't." Arthur responded, "May your suffering last into your next life." With the spell downforce, Lucas lost his third leg. Suddenly, there was an explosion behind them as Lance Baron, Alfred, and Vere arrived. Baron was furious and cast a lightning blaze toward Arthur. Arthur told Sylvie not to fight them. Vere quickly controlled Sylvie with ice spikes, while Alfred summoned multiple fire golems to assist other students in getting outside. Arthur thought to himself, "If I could only go back into the second phase." Baron said death is not enough for the likes of you to do something so atrocious to a Wykes, to my brother. While Baron prepared to cast another spell toward Arthur, Alfred stopped him and said, "You are not to lay a hand on him." Baron angrily replied, "That boy tormented and humiliated my brother before killing him, Alfred, and you're saying that I am not to harm him. Do you wish to go against me as well?" Alfred warned Baron, saying, "The boy was the one who saved everyone here from your brother, and while I understand your loss, I highly recommend you watch your tone with me." Baron ignored the warning and said, "Do not test me. I am in no mood to participate in your folly. My brother just died in front of me. It is only just that I repay his killer in kind." Two fair golems held Baron, but he instantly broke free and walked toward Arthur, about to attack him. However, Very intervened and stopped him. Very told Baron, "You are not the one to make this decision. It is up to the council to determine what to do with the boy and the dragon. Insubordination will not be tolerated." Baron had no choice but to reply, "Understood." After all, Very questioned Arthur, "Will you needing further medical attention?" As Arthur replied, "No, he is just mana depleted." Very told him he will need to wear handcuffs. Very said, "Well, I doubt you can break these." He used artifact to lock Arthur mana core. Arthur requests Very to do the same for his bond, so she is more comfortable. Very released Sylvie. Arthur told Sylvie, "You should change back into your fox form. Even if we fight, we can't win against them." Then Sylvie turned back and questioned, "Papa, what is going to happen to us?" Arthur comforted her, saying, "I am not sure, but don't worry, we will be okay." Very told Arthur, "Follow me to the Mage Guild camp while we wait for further instructions from the council." While everyone are just exchanging gossip, Reynolds, Alice, and Alina yell Arthur. Arthur requests from Very for allowing him to talk with his family. Baron was mad about that, but Alfred calmed him down and warned him, "Stop letting your emotions cloud your judgment." Alice questioned, "Why are you cuffed?" Arthur told them there has just been a bit of a misunderstanding. "Don't worry, just take care of everyone while I am gone for Abbott." Soon Very got decision from council. He told Arthur come to here, then she announced, "By the power vested in me by the council of Dicathan, I General Very, Ori of the Six Lances, do hereby announce Arthur Lewin. The council has decreed that, due to your actions displaying excessive violence and the inconclusive circumstances involved, your monocore is to be restrained, your title as a mage is to be stripped, and you are to be incarcerated until further judgment." The announcement was shocked Ray and Alice. Kathleen yelled, "How dare you punish the only person who did some good? We only made it out alive because of Arthur. If it were not for him, your lances would not have anyone left to save. When my mother and father learn of this decree, they will immediately rescind it." And Very stopped her words and said King and Queen Glader voted in favor of this judgment, along with King and Queen Graysunders. Curtis stopped Kathleen for further action. Arthur requested Very for speak to his family once more. He told them, "Don't look so sad. This misunderstanding will be cleared up soon. I am sure of it." Arthur thought Ellie really grew up fast. "I only wish I had spent more time with her." He told them, "I will just be going away for a little bit. I will definitely come back with promise." Ray said, "Your family is on your side. No matter what happens, no matter what people say." Soon, Baron took Lucas's dead body back to W.Kai's house. Baron's dad was mad and said that boy is an embarrassment to the Wykes house. To be eliminated in such a shameful act after everything I have done for that brat. Every tutor, every beast core, every elixir wasted. And what business have you bringing him back here? After failing to avenge the Wykes name on the spot, you come to defile my night and my home with the body of this worthless fool. Baron stopped his father's slap and told him, "Mind yourself, I am still a lance." His father replied, "Yes, how can I forget? You have gotten so arrogant ever since, but you are a lance only because you are a Wykes. Don't you forget." Baron explained the whole thing happened to his father. His father called Adeline, "Expedite a message to the council tonight. The contents regarding the regrettable attack on Xyrus, my dear son Lucas Wykes, under the influence of Draniv, undoubtedly had no choice but to obey his command or lose his life. How a boy so young would be forced to make such a decision, it hurts my ear to imagine. Yet my son the victim died an excessive, brutal death to the hands of a lawless blackguard unfit to continue living in our society. No other form of repentance than death would be appropriate for a crime so heinously committed on the Wykes family, while we prepare a private funeral for my beloved son. I hope the council will come to a just decision." "This is an accurate account, is it not, Baron?" Baron questioned, "What of the funeral?" His dad replied, "I don't give a damn. Have Adeline take care of it." Arthur sighed. They are finally arrived at the council's floating castle. Alfred reminded Arthur, now that we are inside the actual castle, It is best not to converse with us or any of the lances. Arthur thought this castle feels a lot like the one from my previous life, beautiful, but empty and lonely. Soon, when Arthur reached Dawson yelled on him, "Do you think you are on the same level as the lances? You should take a knee at the very least." But when Arthur noticed Alduin shake his head, he said, "My apologies, your majesties. I am uneducated in the ways of paying respect to nobility and royalty." Lane said, "They have all had a long journey, very uncuff Arthur, so we can get started." Alduin said, "Before we begin, I would like to thank you not only as a leader, but as a father for saving. Lauder yell, we are here as leaders of this damned continent, not as fathers." This boy violently mutilated one of his fellow schoolmates before killing him. "I don't believe any thanks are necessary." Priscilla said, "Dawson, I hardly think it is necessary to." Dawson ignored and said Arthur's crime, both legs crushed into mush past the mid-thigh, left arm dismembered and cauterized, genitals along with the pelvic bone crushed. Alduin and Muriel told him, "That's enough. We are all aware of the report, but we cannot ignore that he has also saved the students of Xyrus Academy." Dawson continued, "It is all convenient and everything that this boy saved the entire school, but this does not justify the torment he put the Wykes boy through. He likely used this fiasco as an excuse to get revenge on a rival of his." Alduin argued, "Now you are saying Arthur dived blindly into this dangerous scene for something like revenge? Even if so, we cannot prove his motives, but we can prove that he saved our children, and what is left of the academy." Claudera said, "And that is exactly why I am not suggesting we kill this boy, but we merely need to cripple him as a mage." From the following conversation, Alduin wished to stand on Arthur's side, while Dawson is opposite. Dawson ever warned Alduin that you only have one lance at your disposal. He decided to lock Arthur up in the dungeon until further orders. Arthur thought, "The dwarf king and queen are against me. The Gladers are refusing to support either side. I'm glad Sylvia is too worn out to dwell on most of this. Do I really have no choice but to depend on Alduin and Muriel to get me and Sylvia out of here unscathed?" Arthur noticed a sounds from beside which is Director Goodsky. From the conversation, Director Goodsky had been imprisoned here for the last several days, and news of the attack on Xyrus Academy was also kept from her. Arthur filled her in on everything he knew because it happened at her very own school, but he still did not understand why she was locked up by the council shortly after her meeting with them. Cynthia thanked Arthur for telling her everything and then asked for more details about how Lucas appeared during their fight. Arthur explained that Lucas was on the same drug that had been circulating in the school for a while, but it affected him differently. He was more powerful, yet still retained his sanity, or as sane as he has always been. He knew what he was doing. Cynthia questioned further about the leader, and Arthur told her that when he arrived, the leader had already left. Arthur asked why she wanted to know about this. Cynthia replied, "I just wanted to confirm something, but I think I understand now. It was bound to happen, but not this soon. They are moving forward with the plan, and a lot faster than expected." Arthur questioned what she meant by bound to happen and who they referred to. Cynthia explained, "I am hardly a director anymore, not after the council made me their scapegoat. That's why I am in here. I suspect the council will blame the events at the school on me to draw attention away from. I can't say. I'm afraid I am bound to stay silent about what I know, Arthur. Not by choice, but by forces and magic neither of us can oppose. Even just telling you this is painful and slowly activating the curse." Arthur angrily exclaimed, "Curse? That is awfully convenient," punched the door and thanked Cynthia for the information. Gossett, furious, opened the door and questioned Blaine. "I thought we had an agreement." Blaine replied, "I am well aware of our agreement. Rest assured you will have my vote, as well as my wife's. However, you cannot expect me to spout such rational accusations, especially against the boy who saved the entire future generation of this continent, including my own children." Gossett arrogantly said, "Future generation? There will be no future generation if you do not side with me." He slammed his hand on the table. "If we hope to have a future for this continent, Arthur and his bond have to go back with him. That was the agreement." Blaine replied, "I know what the stakes are. I do not need you badgering me every moment you feel insecure. You need to realize that you and I are betraying the entire population." Gossett denied betraying and exclaimed, "This continent is due for total annihilation. There is going to be no one left to betray. We just have to salvage what is important to us now. Nothing wrong with that. We will live by serving him and gain new riches and insights from his continent." Blaine said, "What about our people? We don't know what he will do to the kingdoms of Sapin and Darv, let alone what will happen to Elenoir." Gossett continued, "The elves have always been too righteous for their own good. Unlike us, they don't realize what being a leader truly means. Just imagine the technology and the riches he will bring to Dicathan. Immortality, strength, infinite wealth. Can you believe it? Suddenly, Blaine slammed his hand on the table and said, "Don't lump me in with the likes of you. I'm following him for the sake of my family. You are abandoning your own race for the sake of your own selfish gains. What I had to do to get to where I am today, my duty to preserve the Glader blood triumphs. Hopefully, my ancestors will forgive me for this." After Dawes had left, Blaine thought, the luxuries he promised mean nothing to me. All I had wanted in life was to be the strongest mage in Dicathan to make my ancestors proud. My talent as a mage was subpar, and even with countless elixirs and addies, I was barely able to break into the red stage. I caught myself envious of my beloved wife and even my own children. Still, I saw how my father had been blinded by power, and so I swore to never lose sight of why I needed power, to maintain peace and to protect my family and my people. But even now, having the control of 2 lances does little to ease my feeling of inferiority. Am I truly making this decision for the safety of my family? Or do I, like Dawson, crave the power that he promises? Perhaps the only thing greater than that boy's strength as a mage is his poor luck to be involved in this conspiracy. I am sorry, boy. I would like to believe your sacrifice is for the good of this continent. Arthur woke up from a nightmare and immediately noticed that Lancia was there. She told him not to speak and passed him a letter. "Dear Arthur, I fear the scale of this incident is much deeper and more sinister than it appears on the surface. You do not have much time. Soon, the council will declare you and Cynthia Goodski as the perpetrators of the act of terrorism. I overheard an exchange between King Glader and Dawson. They are planning to deliver you to someone. I have sent my father to take your family to a safe and hidden location. You have done so much for Tasha, but my apologies for this is all I can do for you right now. Yours truly, Alduin." Just as Arthur finished reading the letter, Baron told him that the council was waiting. Baron said, "I am looking forward to this trial. After you are imprisoned, I will be sure to treat your family with the same care you showed my brother." Arthur replied, "Are you honestly trying to pick a fight with a 13-year-old? Baron grabbed Arthur and told him, "I don't think you understand what is going to happen to you." Arthur said, "Wow, the great Lance Baron is threatening innocent families to take vengeance for his lunatic younger brother who killed innocent students. He was the one that chose to join the attack. He chose to kill those students and become the dark side." Baron threw him away. Meanwhile, a voice from the council room announced that Cynthia Goodski was now sentenced to public execution. When it was Arthur's turn, Dawson announced, "We have agreed that, since your actions were for the greater good, your sentencing will instead be as follows. Arthur Lewin is to be stripped of his title as a mage and of all benefits that come with that title. He is to be imprisoned until further notice." Arthur thought, "They are planning to deliver me to someone alive." And he said, "Fair enough, I suppose. What about my bond?" Blodera became angry and said, "The council is being kind enough to let you live. You should be thanking us, yet you ask for more." Alduin said, "Losing your rights as a mage means that you will no longer be able to keep your bond." Dawson teased Arthur, "Don't worry, boy. Your pet will be in good hands. The council is aware that a creature of her caliber requires a mage just as powerful. She will be well taken care of." Arthur thought, "I have no doubt that the Greysunders are more than happy to be helping the Vritra." Soon, when Arthur returned to jail, he said, "You know, this is not so bad if you ignore the bars. It sure beats that white room you took me to. You should have seen the last cell I was in." Winsome said, "It seems you were expecting me." Arthur told him, "It's about damn time." Dawson cheered with Glodera and said, "The madness is coming to an end." While they were happy about their future, Dawson said, "As for Alduin and Blaine, they like to joke about how the kings of this continent are lacking compared to our people's power and potential. I was once more powerful than them, and had it not been for..." Dawson thought, "Oh right, she does not know. That incident that crippled me, I would be beyond an orange core right now. To think that my monocore became permanently damaged just because some peasant mage managed to land a strike on my core just because he caught me in bed with his wife. There were plenty of other women to choose from." While they were about to make love, Dawson noticed someone opening the door. He yelled at him, "Who the hell are you to barge in without notice?" Aldir said, "My greetings, Greysunders. Pardon my intrusion." Suddenly, Aldir's eyes started releasing a purple laser light attack towards them and said, "You too are an infestation that I have been instructed to remove." Alfred blocked the attack and apologized to the king and queen, saying that the intruder would not be leaving. Aldir said, "Needless bloodshed is not my desire. I only came for the Greysunders' heads." Alfred replied, "Unfortunately, you won't be getting them." Alfred cast a few magma knights, but they were wiped out by Aldir's single spell. Alfred transformed himself with hell armor and punched towards Aldir. His attack was simply blocked by Aldir's barrier and Alfred was pushed far away. Aldir said, "You have